I wanted to read just part of the my introduction. The author of my book, I don't know what he did in particular, but he worked on translation with his wife, who's a Chinese natural national. So I tend to think that he had some valid insights, and he summarized sort of the Chinese, ancient Chinese in this time, their approach to sovereignty and rulership and dealing with people outside. And I thought it had a lot of echoes of modern policy. So I wanted to get your take on that. So he says, despite incessant barbarian incursions and major military threats throughout its history, Imperial China was little inclined to pursue military solutions to aggression. So they're not wanting to fight in battles. Rulers and ministers preferred to believe in the myth of cultural attraction, whereby the vastly superior Chinese civilization, founded upon virtue and reinforced by opulent material achievements, would simply overwhelm the hostile tendencies of the uncultured. So that's this idea of like, we've got the better technology, we've got the better stuff, we've got the better attitudes. They'll just love our culture and they'll want to join us because we've got the virtue. I just see so much of that in modern Western relations. Frequent gifts of the embellishments of civilized life, give them a bunch of technology, right? Coupled with music and women, it was felt would distract and innervate even the most warlike peoples. So we can conquer people just by giving them the kind of stuff that we think is interesting and fun. Women, music, and luxuries. If they could not be either overawed into submission or bribed into compliance, other mounted nomadic tribes would be employed against troublemakers, following the time-honored tradition of using barbarian against barbarian. So that just seems like still modern global imperial policy of just try and have such cool stuff that people want to join, and like bribe them and wear down their vitality. And if that doesn't work, then make them fight each other so that they don't pay attention here. So that just sort of reveals, um, that these tactics, these strategies, these ideas are perennial. There must be something that works about them because that's what people keep doing, right?
I think of imposing one's will on another society is very reminiscent of like Team America World Police, where, just through you being you, leading by example, others are just going to naturally gravitate towards that. And that's rarely the case. Usually that's the kid that gets, kicked out of the playground for being too uppity, right? But it never happens. It always devolves into either subjugation of the people of the nation that you're taking because they're not falling in line to whatever will you're imposing. Um, that's typically the outcome. I mean, rarely, unless it's rarely a peaceful transition. It's typically through force that you get that level of subjugation. So the idea or the notion that that your mere presence or the way that you act is going to naturally have others gravitate towards that, especially on such a large scale, like on a national level, is very unlikely. And the other point was barbarian versus barbarian. Well, if the people don't get in line, then we're going to use, rather than us engaging in conflict, we're going to use another, I guess, lesser group of people to do the fighting for us. And that's what we see today, right? Through clandestine warfare, whether it's in Russia, Ukraine, right? NATO's not going to put Germans on the ground. I mean, at least not yet, hopefully, right? They're not going to put French on the ground. They're going to put Ukrainians on the ground who aren't even in NATO to do the work for NATO under the guise of needing that liberation from Russia.